Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nerds Explain It All. I am Nancy.
I'm Zach.
I'm Lance.
And I'm Steven.
This past Sunday, March 8th, was International Women's Day, so we thought we'd have an episode cataloging some of our favorite female characters. We're going to talk about Agent Carter.
It just so happened that, Agent Carter finished. We wanted to talk about that. And just tying it all together with International Women's Day, talk about some of our favorite, least favorite, women in nerd culture. So
this one's for the ladies.
Ow!
So Nancy, why don't you take us away with Agent Carter?
Okay, so I have to admit something, and I feel bad saying it. It might have to punch my feminism card just once. But I did not watch this initially when it aired because I think I don't know what I was doing. I don't have any good excuses. But I was worried that it was going to be sort of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I didn't want to see them screw it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Understandable.
I like Peggy Carter, so I didn't want to watch it. And then a couple weeks ago, I had one of my friends was like, "Why are you not watching this show? I don't understand why you're not watching it. It's so good." I'm like, "Really?" Then after 3 or 4 more people told me to watch it, I went to go watch it. And funny, I had to buy the first 3 episodes because at that point Hulu was like, "No, we only have episode 4 on." So I was like, "Okay, it'll be worth it." So after watching the pilot, I was like, "Oh my god!" I had a serious moment of crisis. Why have I not been watching this show?
The show is tailor-made for you, Nancy.
I know. I trust me. I feel stupid.
Just like
it's like
all
when
of
I didn't
Peggy's
read
great
Harry
outfits.
Potter. It's like when I didn't read Harry Potter initially because I thought, oh, everyone's reading it. Everyone are pretty stupid collectively, so I probably shouldn't read Harry Potter. No. So I learned my lesson with Harry Potter in books, but now I've learned my lesson, or well, some of it with TV show. No, Agent Carter is a fantastic show. I mean, I almost didn't go to work one day so that I could just chain watch the rest of it.
I will say, I think a key to, and I watched it, I loved it. Steve, Lance, what did you think?
Oh, yeah. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought there was a lot of good character moments on there. I thought it did a really good job of kind of fleshing her character out and giving her more than we got in Captain America, when the first Avenger, which she was really good in that as well. And so they just kind of kept the ball rolling with her, and I thought it was a really good, well produced and well put together show.
Yeah, and I think that this is kind of what we wanted from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right?
Yes, absolutely, 100 times yes.
Like a good show that sort of touched on stuff that was in the universe, but just a little bit. Basically, really all you were touching was Howard Stark, right?
Well, there's a gap.
Yes.
There's a huge gap in the Marvel cinematic universe now after Captain America and, I guess, Iron Man movies. So there's like a good 30, 40-year gap there of untold material.
Well, yeah.
So it's perfect for a TV show to tap into that.
Yeah, and I, I think the fact that it was 8 episodes was a very good thing. Like they knew where they were going. They knew what story they had to tell.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
They knew how much time they had to tell it, and they went from beginning to end. They're done. If they have a second season, great. If they don't, it's okay. Maybe a second season, but I don't want it to go too far because I think that the more seasons they have, the worse it's going to be.
But yeah, that's your philosophy on everything.
Yeah.
And that's, I know
It's
you're
true.
glad Firefly got canceled for that reason, and that's ridiculous.
It would have been horrible. It would have been Hearts of Gold all season long.
That's kind of
Come
a
on.
defeatist attitude.
Okay.
Because Buffy's last season was amazing.
I will say...
Yeah, but we're talking about a season 2.
Well,
we're
time
not
out,
talking
guys.
about season 5.
I will say that some shows do kind of go on a downward trend as they go on.
But not to be
But look
not
at
so extreme
Star
to be
Trek or the X
yeah,
Files.
after one
right?
season, okay, that's
they
enough.
Kind of
Right,
pick up. They
right.
kind of pick up their legs, after
They pick up steam.
Yeah,
The best part, the X Files, the best seasons are definitely. I mean,
8 and 9
I like
for sure. Yeah.
I think most people would agree. Most people don't like season 1 for whatever reason. Most people say seasons 2 through end of 4, half of 5 are where the show has the most steam.
Most shows have a bell curve, where they peak in the center.
I understand what you're saying though.
And
Alias season 4 was amazing, right?
Hey, some
Season
people
5 even better.
some shows peak at the end, like Friday Night Lights, which was fantastic at the beginning, took a dip in seasons 2 and 3, and then 4 and 5 were just off the charts amazing.
The reverse bell curve.
Well, I understand what you mean, though. You don't want a second season to come and have it be shitty, and then, we've always talked about, it retroactively,
Ruins everything, yeah.
shades the first
Not
season.
always, but if it's bad enough, it can.
Well, Haley
I-
Atwell has said that she would love to come back and do lots of these, like, see Peggy in the 50s and the 60s, because we know she lives till the 2000s, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a perfect kind of anthology miniseries.
I think the timing of the show was first of all like very very good. It was a good idea to have it just after the war
Time period, yeah.
and see exactly what she was doing. Like as the world tries to go back to normal, and for somebody like her, it made sense for her to try and do what she was still doing. And so it's cool that she was working for the SSR, and then unfortunately she has to regress or get used to her role being diminished, especially in the society that was looking down upon women, not allowing her to do stuff, only wanting her to get coffee and lunch and those types of things.
And that's like legit. Like that happened to all women in the
Right.
U.S. after World War
I think
II.
that's
Unfortunately,
an aspect I really
Yes.
liked about the show was it was very it didn't try to pull any punches one way or the other. It
Yeah.
was just realistic in that depiction. Like some dudes are nice, some guys respect her because she's another human being. A
Yep.
lot of people there's always that asshole in the diner when she would go visit Angie.
Yeah.
Like those people are unfortunately still around, but
Yes.
they were very
and no one
prevalent in the
was so
40s.
over the top to be a caricature. Everyone.
Right.
I feel like
Like her she was cool, like how she just she could play between the worlds. Like she's so intelligent that she can function in any type of situation. Like to get that apartment, she did what she had to do to get that apartment, and then when it's time for her to go out on a mission and kick ass, she goes out there and kicks ass.
Yeah, I love how she owns every interaction that she has, even when the person she's talking to is not aware of it.
how long do you plan on staying here? Until I find a husband, ma'am.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, if she has to take the denigration to get what she wants, it's going to happen.
But this
She
show-
always kept her temper, unless it was appropriate to not keep it, which I thought was very admirable, because they could have easily. There's just so many ways this could have gone wrong.
Yeah, the only time that her emotions really came to the fore were when Steve was mentioned.
Oh, Howard.
Yeah, so
I am pretty awesome.
and understandably so.
Yeah, I think I know a huge part of the show is the comedy, aspect of it. Like the show is so funny. Like there's nothing I hate worse than jokes that fall flat in bad comedy. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was full of that. Like they do stuff and I'm like, oh, I was supposed to laugh at that. Oh well, I'm not because you suck. That's how I'd feel. Because that show was so bad. Like there's so many bad characters and boring interactions and And Agent Carter is completely the reverse. Like they take all these characters, they mix them together. Everyone's interesting. Like you got the war vet with the missing leg. You got the gruff cop captain guy. You got the young up and coming.
Michael Murray.
Yeah, my dude, Chad Michael Murray, Luke Scott, man.
Where's he been?
Luke Scott. Well, he's regretting his decision for leaving One Tree Hill after season 6. That's what he's doing.
Talk about shows that last too long.
Still,
No joke.
I really appreciate too that her love for Steve doesn't incapacitate her. Like they didn't make it in her typical oh no, my life is ruined, I must make a life from the wreckage. Like that was never her to begin
That's true.
with. It was just
But
a thing that.
What I was thinking about these things is she gets married, right?
Yeah.
And she has children,
And
and I'm. Don't you feel bad for that guy?
Oh, so you're equating her to Rose's husband from Titanic?
Absolutely.
Even
That's
when
exactly
she
what I
dies,
was
she
gonna
goes
say.
to heaven with Leo DiCaprio. I'm like, hey, where was homeboy that was with her for 75 years? Oh,
Well,
forget
but
about
you're
him.
kind of assuming when she gets married. We don't know.
Yeah,
Also
I'm
true.
interested to see who they reveal her husband to be because he was part of that group that
Right.
Captain America rescued.
It reminds me of this story that I'm sure nobody has read by Robert Olin Butler. This woman's talking to her unborn child, and she's telling him or her all these things, about her life that she wants the child to know, like just the two of them. And she mentions that the first person she fell in love with died during the Vietnam War, and now she's marrying an American GI, and while she loves him very much, it is just not the same.
Well,
and
it's like the
it's
Peter
such
Parker,
a poignant,
Mary Jane, Gwen
touching
Stacy thing.
story, and it's very she can still love Steve. I mean, I don't know.
Well, this is
It's
a
hard
lot
to
like
explain.
It's
Like-
a lot
It's
like
hard-
Spider-Man
it's hard
Blue,
to-
right?
It's hard to explain for anybody. I mean, man or female, because that happens
Right,
all the
like,
time.
Well, like Lance,
Yeah.
like Spider-Man Blue, right? It's the same
Yeah,
kind of approach
same
there,
type of
where,
thing.
where Gwen Stacy
Yeah.
was the love of Peter Parker's life, and she died. So he moved on to Mary Jane, but it's never quite the same. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a part of you that's always with that person that's not there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like you don't give yourself to this new person who comes along, but there's just who you were at that moment is time stamped with the person that's no longer there. So in some way, you really can't. You're not the same person.
I mean, everyone's jealous of ex-boyfriends, but Captain America, really? How do you live up to that?
Yeah.
How many people actually know that? Besides the SSR folks.
Well, how many people know who Peggy Carter is and that she exists other than the SSR
right,
folks?
That's what I mean. So I'm sure
that's her entire world.
Maybe she meets some guy and she just doesn't ever mention it, which is totally a woman.
No, the guy knows because he was rescued.
Well, I didn't know if they're gonna do something different if there's a second.
They will get into that eventually. Now I don't know.
I'm sure they will.
I hope if they keep doing the show, they keep her agency. Never just make her a permanent love interest because she's always fighting the archetypes of the era. So to have her fall into line in a relationship,
I don't
or whatever,
think she would. It'd have to be a
and her and Howard Stark's relationship is of course very interesting. Being the womanizer he is,
the best. I love it. I love how disgusted she is by him, but at the same time, she sort of pities him a little bit. She knows more about him than he understands about himself.
Well, and he also and I also like how Howard realizes that about her. He doesn't really necessarily he doesn't fuck with her, but he does fuck with her, but not not in.
But he apologizes. He apologizes. Tries to get her back after he fucks her over.
Yeah,
and she gives Jarvis the finger, basically. No, I'm still mad.
Well, let's talk about Jarvis. I love Jarvis. Jarvis is everything Alfred should be. Right, you know what I mean. He's such a proper English butler, and all his one-liners and stuff.
Still no mustache though.
Well, that's okay. He's not.
Oh my gosh, that
Alfred.
sequence where he gets slapped on the stoop by all of Howard Stark's jilted lovers.
Well, I think one of my favorite lines of Jarvis in the whole show is when they're taking him down to the station. He's like, "Oh, I haven't ridden the back of a car in years. How delightful!"
Yeah.
Just little things like that, and I mean, he's such a great character, and him and Peggy play off each other well, and that is what sets this show apart from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because the characters are great. Every single character's great.
Well, even some the small ancillary characters like Angie, for example. First of all, big shout to Lindsay Fonseca who was in Kick-Ass, and so and I like the other agents at the agency. Chief Dooley kind of grew on me because he was really annoying at first to me.
He was the most stereotypical, I'm the gruff captain, kind of like the Chicago PD guy, Lance, right?
No, that dude's awesome. That dude is awesome. This guy, Chief Dooley, was kind of because he was
this blood is on Howard Stark's hands.
Slovenly drunk, with his short ass tie.
Well, I think he won me over when he went to Germany and gave that guy a breath mint, and it was fine. I was like, "Oh, damn! He just killed a guard. That's cold-blooded."
Yeah, that was cold-blooded.
I don't know why he did that, to be honest, to remove all evidence he was there.
What he did right there, that was Voight-like from Chicago.
That was hey, you want a breath mint?
Yeah.
She just killed that guy.
And he had one of the best death scenes ever.
That's true.
Just run out of the building and explode into a fucking
that was nuts.
I'll tell you one thing I liked about the show, that Dum Dum Dugan was in an episode, just randomly, look, they tied it back, now no one else, they can only forward one person. No, but so they got the main guy.
It wasn't just him.
Yeah, they didn't get Booby Miles back, but they got other people.
They got
they didn't have the British guy or the French guy. It was the only one that I know of.
Now they did an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with them all in it, which I refuse to watch because I'm not watching that show anymore. So they almost got me there, but I wasn't gonna go back. Not even the Howling Commandos can get me back.
It still worked for me. I was like, oh, that guy. Yeah.
Lieutenant Hawk, man, I'm telling you. He'll always be Lieutenant Hawk to me from Star Trek First Contact. It's you knew he was going to die in First Contact when they gave him a name. It's who's this guy sitting next to Data who has a name and he's doing stuff? This guy is so dead. I think what's another thing that set the show apart was the time period. Everything had to be they had to really create their own world and really felt like it fit into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think a problem with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is it looked like any other show. You could just be flipping through the channels and I'm watching Fringe, or I'm watching TNT, or I'm watching Leverage or something, Yeah. Speaking of Fringe, the typewriter, complete Fringe ripoff, right? The typewriter typing itself, come on.
Yep.
I don't mind, because I love that. I think the terminology is, it's not steampunk, it's transistor punk. It's like
jury
rigged technology from like the 50s, like, because that's what I loved about Fringe so much. It was like trying to make like analog technology do crazy futuristic things. So I love that a lot, and that's all the mad science stuff going on here. I love that too. So I mean, this show is just tailor made for my interest. Captain America is my favorite Marvel hero. Peggy Carter is my favorite Marvel love interest. The 40s is my favorite time period of World War II. So I mean, just
Howard is your favorite Stark. I wouldn't mind seeing a second season. I don't want them to go too many more seasons. And if they do a second season, the 8-episode format worked. I think they should repeat it. But I'm glad to watch it because I love the characters.
I'm going to say something crazy. Like, I honestly think this might be the best superhero TV show. What do you guys think of that?
No.
I agree with you.
What's
Name
better?
one superhero on this show.
Captain America.
Nope, not on the show.
He's in it for a few seconds.
His
I
blood's
have to say, I think that's actually a huge plus for this show, and that there is not a superhero who is the star.
Well, I'll say this.
Agreed.
It's not.
It is set in a comic universe, but thank God it doesn't suffer from, like, I know you guys love Arrow and Flash, and I have watched some. I've watched way more Arrow than Flash. I just don't.
Well,
it's just not good enough. It's not like watching it in a movie, and for me, that's what I like, or reading it. Either way, it just seems kind of like for me.
See, my thoughts on it. I see where you're coming from. My thoughts on it are this: Agents of Carter on
ABC
only.
Yeah, Agent Carter is everything that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Agree.
It has its own. When you watch Agent Carter, it has its own style. Like,
because
Agent Carter. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like I said, it looks like you're watching Leverage or the Librarians or some ridiculous Rizzolian Isles. I don't know, some stupid directed cable show. Like, there's no differentiation. I think that the key is here. We got a main character from the movies who we all identify with. The actress comes back. She's the focus, right? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we get Coulson, but who else do we get? A bunch of no-names with cardboard cutouts of caricatures of people who have no personality and are just by the numbers.
It's not set in the... I mean...
They're like, hey, Thor just destroyed the city. Let's go pick up after him. It's like, really? This is your crossover? Like,
if with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like, I mean, well, if it was as good as Agent Carter is, then like this is what I thought that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would be like, but it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was as good as Agent Carter, then I would be saying what you're saying, that how this is the best superhero TV show, because it should be that way, but it's not.
I wish what they would do is cancel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and just give us a full season of Agent Carter, to be honest. No, but if you dilute it over a full season, I understand it won't be as good. So just keep it the way it is. Maybe 10 episodes, that's a little 10 or 13.
I think I just like shows that don't treat me like I'm stupid. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of shows unintentionally do that, even when they're trying to be smart. And there's nothing worse than a show trying to be funny and smart when it's not.
Yes, that's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in a nutshell. Like, I can't. I never, like, I literally, I think when, Lance and I, we were roommates, we watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. the first half of the first season, and we literally, I think I almost turned it off a couple times.
Yeah,
like,
you did.
I literally acted like, all right, we're done. And we came back to like 5 minutes later, but like, seriously, I wasn't super invested in this whole, superhero thing like I am. I would have stopped watching after the 3rd episode, much less, I gave it half a season, and people still say, oh, it got better. I don't care. Agent Carter...
That's what people tell me about Walking Dead, and I'm like, no, I'm done with it.
Well, Agent Carter proves that you can have a great first 2 episodes and continue and have a great show. Like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there was like, oh, you gotta wait. Oh, man, you gotta wait. No, Agent Carter just proved that they hit the ground running, you tell a great story, you're done. And they had... The frustrating thing about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was they had this whole Marvel Universe tied into, and it's just a bunch of bullshit tie-ins. Like, I loved how they had, even though I don't like Iron Man 2, they had Vanko in this. That's a great tie-in. You got Roxxon, Chemical, you got all these things, and they just did it. Maybe they learned from their mistakes.
Maybe.
And if the fans on the internet is to be believed, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have learned from mistakes, but I'm just so turned off on it, I have no interest anymore. So I'm never going to go back and watch that. Even the Peggy Carter Captain America World War II episode could not get me back. So
no. Agreed. No, I hope there's a second season. I don't know what they would do, but it seems like from what they've shown me, I would watch it. Because I liked the story, I liked the characters. I thought there were a lot of nods to fans and other like Marvel things that if you weren't looking, if you didn't know about it, that's fine. But if you do, it's just the extra little bit.
Right.
It's the icing on the cake.
And even if they don't bring it back to ABC, they could make it a direct to Netflix show.
Exactly.
I mean, look at the House of Cards. There's no shame in that. I mean, I guess it'd be weird to go from ABC back to Netflix, but I mean, I'm definitely prefer this over January Jones or whatever.
Oh God.
But
yes.
It's Jessica Jones, isn't it?
Yes.
I always make that mistake.
I know who you meant.
I always make that mistake. Well, I didn't know who I meant. God. But yeah, no, I stand by it. I think this might be just quality over quantity. This is the best superhero related show out there for sure. And I love the Flash.
Yep.
And I like Arrow. So that we're teetering on like and love with Arrow. It's getting into dangerous territory. But that's, like I said, that's a conversation for another time. And it's great to have a great, and tie into the theme of this episode, it's great to have a great woman role model leading the way in a show like this, and just tackling the prejudices against women head on, especially in that time period. And that stuff still is applicable today. I mean, people think we're over sexism and racism. I mean, we're not. So,
agree. Yeah, and you're right. It came at just the right time with this increase in focus and exposure on feminism, sexism, all that stuff. This was the right time for it to come out. It's good.
Talking about women in nerd culture. We just want to talk about some of the iconic and not so iconic and good and bad, our personal favorites and least favorites, portrayals of women characters and actresses and all that in nerd culture. So why don't you take it away, Lance?
Okay, well, when I first got wind of that this was going to be the topic, when I was thinking about it, it was, and I'm thinking about my favorites. I'll save my favorite for later, but I guess my point right now is that I have so many characters that I like, female characters that I like. I read a whole lot of comics, and there's just so many good characters out there in any universe that are just really, really good characters. Now, whether they've been given a fair shake on screen or not is a different story, but in print, where you can read their exploits, there's just so many, and I have so many favorites. Everybody from Lois Lane on down to Rocket to Storm to Kitty Pryde, who I used to hate. There's so many. I wish we had more time on it, and I could tell you why I liked each of them. But there's just so many different ones that it's kind of hard to choose. It's a little bit different from the whole discussion of name me one black superhero, and people have to kind of struggle. But people can name female superheroes. Even if they're a main one or a sidekick or an ancillary or what, they can name them. They can't do that with minority characters, but they could do that with female characters. And I'm not trying to shortchange one group for another. That's just kind of something that you recognize. And me personally, and as a dude who people will, people who don't understand and don't know what was you like, this female character is well, hell yeah, I like this female character. This female character is badass. And it's not just that she's a female, it's just she is just a badass. Right. Agent Carter, I could proudly say to people, yeah, hell yeah, I watched that show. She's awesome. You could, and let's say I say the same thing about Cora. One of my top two favorite characters of female characters, top 5 characters, period.
Yes.
Cora's awesome. So it doesn't matter if the character's awesome. The character's awesome, and there's lots of awesome female characters.
Yeah, and you know what? I get one thing that sort of comes into my mind: Starbuck for Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, excellent.
She was a badass because she was a woman. She was just a badass, just like Cora. And she, in fact, just happened to be a woman. And you know what? She held her own with the guys, and occasionally you'd see her femininity.
Yeah.
And
was she,
which is great.
Was she an angel or what? What happened there in season
hey,
4?
Don't overthink it. What I'd like to talk about is the ladies of Firefly and Serenity.
Nice.
Because what I like about them is, I'm not going to talk about River because she was different. I want to talk mainly about... I know, but I'm not talking about it right now. Okay? I'm talking about Kaylee, Nara, and Zoe. Now, each of these 3 women are almost caricatures of different aspects of womanhood. You've got Zoe, who's just a badass. You've got sweet Kaylee, and you've got, the seductress Inara. Mm-hmm. Now, what I love about it is there's so very much these characters that are, as I said, caricatures, but you can see that Zoe, when she's alone with Wash, she's got this vulnerable side to her. Mm-hmm. When you see, how Inara can be like this badass warrior, just like, Zoe can be, and then you see, of course, as the series goes on, you see Kaylee's sexual side. Of course, you never really see the strength in her in terms of fighting, but you see other kinds of strength. And I like how the fact that they show, okay, this is what a woman can be. But even though, especially Zoe, even though Zoe is this badass bitch who will shoot you in the face, She also has her soft side, and maybe she keeps it hidden, and she only shows it to Wash. But she looks great in a slinky dress. So what are you gonna do? And then River is she's a whole other can of worms. She's just this weird, awesome character that would have been like the best part of the series if they had continued on.
Well,
Definitely,
she was the Data of the show.
Yeah, she because she's learning, and her story is clearly the most interesting. So interesting that it dragged along her boring ass brother son. Back to Joss Whedon, he does have a history of using women. Obviously, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who just sort of turned the concept of a high school cheerleader on its head, which is great.
He resurrected Black Widow from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
He resurrected Kitty Pryde in X-Men comic books in Astonishing X-Men 1 through 25. Because, like I mentioned earlier, I used to hate Kitty Pryde. But then again, when she was introduced, she was supposed to be like a Will Wheaton type of character. She was supposed to be Wesley Crusher for the X-Men, but for X-Men. But then Kitty Pryde grew up, and over time, she got awesome, and then she got real awesome when Joss Whedon took the reins. So I appreciate Joss for that, because now I love Kitty Pryde. So Nancy, some of your favorite characters?
I feel like I always talk about the same people, but then I guess that's just because it's hard to live up to something that's good.
Well, was there anyone that like inspired you growing up? Like he was like a role model, like in their culture as a woman?
You mean besides Dana Scully?
Well, say your piece about Scully.
What else? No, that would be
that take too long.
Show. No, I don't. If you're listening to this, I don't really need to talk to you about Dana Scully. I don't think. Like, Scully was landmark at the time. She was a scientist. Like we've talked about her before. I think on the show previously. I forget what it was, but I remember Zach, you were saying like, oh, they swapped roles, and that's why the show worked, which is
right.
Really
she was the logical.
She's the logical, scientific, skeptic.
What was the emotional, impulsive one who believes in crazy stuff?
But I think they did a good job of having Dana be like kind of like what you were saying, Steve, about Zoe. She has like that vulnerable side, and we as the viewers are always in Mulder's shoes often before we really get to see a lot of episodes from Scully's perspective where we see that other side to her. But of course, being in the FBI, there just aren't as many women, especially in the 90s. Like, it just makes sense that she would have to have like, the boys club, the Peggy Carter persona up front.
Yeah, it's a precursor to that.
Some aspect of, right. I mean, it's the same thing. They're the same kind of woman. They want to do their job well. They're not going to be put off by whatever the circumstances are, certainly not men. So, of course, Dana Scully, mine are sort of weird. Once we veer away from Dana Scully, Peggy Carter, and Donna Noble from Doctor Who, then they start getting weird.
Donna.
I know. I figured you would bring up Donna.
It's your favorite companion?
Donna
is the best companion.
Donna is my wife in that situation. The first time you meet her, she gets zapped. She's in the middle of her wedding. She gets zapped onto the TARDIS, and she's like, "Who are you? What is this place?" And it's the funniest shit ever.
Yeah, she is not.
She's like, "Pockets? Do I look like I have pockets?"
Yeah, in her wedding dress. Like, she's so great because she absolutely refuses. Like, she doesn't just swoon for the doctor on site. She does what a normal person would do. It's like, what the hell is this? Where am I? What did you do? Like, you need to fix this. Well, then, of course, they're friends instead of thank God. Thank you, show writers.
Doctor Who is a interesting example of always having bringing a woman along for the ride. To I guess as you guys can attest to, because you've obviously seen a lot more Doctor Who than Lance or I. Like to various results, success and failures. I mean, what's the good to bad companion ratio?
So Donna Noble for me would be the best, and Steve and I will disagree on this one. I think Amy Pond for me personally is the worst. I hate her, but I hate her because I don't like the sort of person she is, and I don't like how she treats her husband, boyfriend, whatever, and the Doctor. I don't like her. Everyone hates Martha, but that's only because Martha came after Rose, and really anything that came after Rose was doomed to fail.
But I'm a huge fan of Rose.
Do they have a good track record though? Like as far the percentage, the percentage of good companions, female strong characters to bad.
Let's put it this way: none of their the companions are like these like weak little women. They're all kind of
True.
badasses in their own way. Rose is the most naive one. She's like young, but by the end of the series, she becomes like a pretty awesome.
Yes, none of them are weak. I agree with you on that.
But the point is that Doctor Who has a good track record with women. First of all, you've got
before Moffat came along, I would like to add
River Song. River Song's an awesome character.
Agree.
You might know her as Dinah Lance, the mom.
Oh yeah, the mom, right? Yeah.
Yeah, she's a great character in Doctor Who. Who else did I have? I had Hermione, but that's kind of lame because everyone likes Hermione.
Well, I think that Hermione is obviously awesome, but
my favorite characters in Harry Potter were dudes. Sorry, JK.
I never really liked Ginny Weasley.
Nope, that's why she's not on my list.
Steve, you mentioned Starbuck on Battlestar Galactica. I got to say, President Rosalind was a great female character on that show too. Because
you mean the First Lady?
What do you mean?
She was Independence Day, dude.
Oh yes. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, and she was also she was also in Dances with Wolves with Kevin Costner, but that's
true. Oh, that's right. Dang.
She's a great actress though, because not only because I think we can all agree as women, and this is beyond nerd culture, this is media in general. As women get older, they get kind of pushed to the side. As media goes, it's like once an actress hits 50, like Hollywood doesn't know what to do with them, right? But she was like the most powerful person on the show because she was the president of all the colonies and all the conflict she came into with the Commander Adama. I mean, that was great stuff. And she had the whole cancer thing she was dealing with. She was a survivor,
Spoilers.
And then it came back. I'm not going to say if she died or not at the end, but
she starts the episode and they always call her a teacher. She's the Secretary of Education. She was appointed by the president. She doesn't know anything about governing.
No, she was like 57th in line to become the president.
Yeah,
and everyone else died. So she
was thrust into this role of being the president of the colonies, and she rises to the fucking task. I mean, she becomes a total ruthless badass.
Absolutely.
And she stands toe to toe with Adam.
I'm the commander of this fleet.
and he's been doing this. He's been a career military, and
so taking orders from a teacher.
And he's, even with his face scarring, he's still a badass.
That makes him more of a badass, man. Yes.
But I mean, that's a good point. She's a great character. The other characters on the show, I mean, the female characters.
6 could have been just the sex appeal, right? And she was, but she became a very layered character. And same thing with Boomer. There were 2 Boomers. There was a good one. There was a bad one. I mean, there's crazy
Boomer
stuff going on. What?
It was Boomer and Athena.
Oh, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to equate like badass equals great. I mean, that's why I brought up President Rosalind. But I will say, if you're talking about nerd culture and strong women characters, you got to say Ripley from the Alien series. I mean, she was like the iconic like badass woman in a sci-fi series. I mean, she was the headliner of that show. Like it was called Alien, but Ripley is what you think of when you think of Alien.
Yeah.
And and she just happened to be. It was nothing about her being a woman. She was just the most resourceful one who survived at the end. And she single-handedly killed.
I believe her character was originally written as a man.
Yes, yeah, I believe so. And they just switched it up, and she became a woman. And it didn't affect the story either way. And I think that's great when that happens. Like when they don't make a big deal about her being a woman. I mean, yes, there's situations like Agent Carter or Scully on the X-Files.
Well, but them being a woman matters in the context of how other characters interact with them on the show. With Ripley, it doesn't matter. Man or woman.
And then, she becomes like that motherly figure to Newt in Aliens, and then they kill her off in Aliens 3.
That doesn't exist anymore.
That's right. It's been wiped.
That's called. Now it's called Alien Legends.
Is it?
No.
Oh, I got you. The Lucas film. That's right. Jane and Jason Solo. You don't exist. God, she's in her late 60s now, so it'll be very interesting to see how because they cannot do it like they did with Kingdom and the Crystal Skull. Like, let's just pretend Harrison Ford is like action guy still. Like, please don't do it that way. There has to be Neil Blomkamp is a smart guy, or at least I used to think so. I haven't seen Chappie yet, but we'll find out after I see that. But definitely Sigourney Weaver is Ripley. I think defined like badass sci-fi heroine, and then you got to go with Sarah Connor. From Terminator. I mean, you saw the first Terminator film, which is the first Terminator is so underrated and forgotten. It's like World War I and World War II. Everybody talks about World War II. Nobody talks about World War I. But you can, they're all
arguably more interesting.
Yeah, the Great War, as they called it for
Right.
about 20 years. Terminator.
And just like World War One, Terminator One had Austrians or Austrian.
Right, thank you for that.
Put that out.
Oh my gosh.
The character transformation of Sarah Connor in the first one, she's just a waitress. She's just kind of carefree, going out partying with her friends, and boom, she's thrown into this crazy scenario where like the killer robot from the future is after her, and she has to grow up, mature, and get tough like within like just a few days. And then we meet her again in Terminator 2, and she has completely transformed herself into like a badass, like just the most badass woman in science fiction, I think. I mean, she's got an arsenal of weapons, and she's not screwing around. And the great thing about T2 is like she herself kind of becomes the Terminator when she goes after Dyson. Like breaks into his home, and it's crazy. And then she reconciles with her son at the end because her obsession and her single-mindedness about preventing the future had created this huge rift between her and her son. And then the Sarah Connor Chronicles, the TV show, it was a great show. It
was.
It kind of fizzled out. And it got canceled, as all things do on Fox. Seriously, if Gotham lasts longer than Sarah Connor Chronicles, I'm gonna be pissed.
Oh, it will. People love garbage. It'll last longer.
But that show, it really was about Sarah Connor and raising John Connor, and it wasn't just about her being a mom. She was still fighting the good fight. And then, of course, like I said, Summer Glau was on that show as Cameron. A reference to James Cameron, the creator of Terminator. She was a very interesting character who raised a whole lot of questions, none of which were answered.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you can eat. She's like, I'm different. Like, what the fuck? Like, give us some answers. Like, these cute, that work when you're River, but not when you're Cameron.
Yeah.
But that was just a great show. And then it had other badass characters from the future came out. I mean, as Lance can attest. Have either of you guys seen Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles?
No,
it's good.
You should see it now. In concept, you're like, this is going to be retarded. Like, what are they going to send a Terminator back every week? And unfortunately, that's what the show kind of turned into. But there are very strong elements about it. And Sarah Connor, even though it's not Lyndall Hamilton anymore, it's Lena Headey from Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. So there you go. Talk about strong female characters. Game of Thrones, right? I mean, they're from novels, but they're adapted very well.
Yep. Arya Stark for the win.
Yay, Arya! Although, I mean, I think we're gonna see.
Arya.
I think we're also gonna see Sansa become a real serious player. Like she's gonna be respectable. Although I've
always liked Sansa. I've been waiting for her to do some good stuff.
It took me like 3 books to forgive
Sansa.
her. Yeah, it took me 3 books to forgive her for letting her direwolf be killed because Nancy would just never. I would fucking kill somebody before I let you touch my pet. So no. But anyway, I feel like she certainly had a hard time of it. So at some point, I really had to just forgive her for being a child.
Game of Thrones, for all the sex and violence or whatever, it has a very balanced cast of men and women.
It's good.
It's like one of the
George R. R. Martin understands who actually is turning the wheel on this one, and a lot of it are the women. Mm-hmm. It is the women behind the scenes.
That's one of the best balanced casts of any kind of genre show or book or series or anything. I'd say.
Now, Game of Thrones is a whole separate discussion. We can go into that for its own show, which it should be when the 5th season comes out.
When that 7th book comes out, we'll talk about it.
But what I do want to mention is Catelyn Stark, who I'm not a fan of, just in general, but I like her because she shows a different kind of strength that a woman can possess. She has this motherly strength where she will do whatever she has to do to protect her children. And she's very much like protecting her cubs, and I just think that's interesting. And then Cersei, you see when you get in the books, you see stuff from Cersei's point of view, and even though she's like still this bitch, she's like, I'm doing this for my children, and she has that same motherly strength. And I think that's interesting because yes, it's kind of like Secret, the deodorant. Strong enough for a man, but made for a woman. And what I want to put it is like, a woman could be like Starbuck and be just as badass as any man. But what I like about women is that they can have their own kind of strength,
their own brand of strength. Yeah.
Yes, which is just as strong as a man, but just as feminine as any other woman, which I just really like in a character.
And that's the thing about Star Trek, which they've never been able to capture. I think
Nope.
It's either like you're this window dressing, sex appeal, motherly character, something you fit into those couple of categories. I think Major Kira is the only one who kind of goes into both, in Dax too. Deep Space Nine, really. Deep Space Nine had well-rounded characters.
The best characters. It's the best show.
Absolutely. So, but like every other show, like Star Trek, they could not find that balance of like, oh, you're going to be a woman, or you're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be a counselor, or you're going to be this, or you're going to be the sexy one. Next Generation, they created Tasha Yar, like these hard ass, kind of like what Starbuck ended up being, Steve. Starbuck was Tasha Yar done right, because she was a terrible character, bad actress too.
Yeah. We call him that Troy looked great in a jumpsuit. Like
Counselor Troy. Once again, you have the women like in the motherly, nurturing roles, right? Dr. Crusher's the doctor, and Troy's the counselor. It's like these stereotypical women roles on the ship. And that's what shook it up by having a strong female character like Major Kira be second in command. So finally, by the time they got to Deep Space Nine, they got the women characters right. Star Trek Voyager is a whole nother can of worms. Yes, it had a first woman captain, but she was a terrible captain, made terrible decisions. And
That's true.
And they got stranded. Of course, they get stranded 7,000 light years from home or something like that. And they have to. And she is the worst captain, like by far. And it has nothing to do with her being a woman. I know it was a big deal in like 1995 when it's like the first female captain. It's like, wow, it took us 30 years to get a female captain in Star Trek. Well, as a main character, they had other captain guest stars and stuff, but yeah, you're right. Just having that balance, Steve, of like a womanly strength is not necessarily defined by man strength, and that's why I wanted to bring up like I said, the President Rosalind and stuff, because immediately your mind goes, oh, Ripley's a badass, man. She's the best woman in sci-fi. I mean, and she's a great character, but that doesn't automatically make her the best because she killed a bunch of xenomorphs.
Right. They
introduced 7 of 9 just for ratings. A bored babe in a jumpsuit, right?
Yep.
So Jerry Ryan was a very good actress,
Yes,
and she had a very good character. So I mean, had they dressed her in a uniform? Because there's a few episodes, much like Troy, when they finally put Troy in a uniform on TNG, she actually like got more respect because she doesn't have like a V.
Because she had
V-neck.
separate pants.
She doesn't have a neckline going down to her crease. The crease is the best part. But on Voyager.
Creepy.
But on Voyager, you have 7 of 9 like in this skin tight jumpsuit. I'm like, how can I take you seriously? So Star Trek really shot itself in the foot with like sexuality. It's like, look at this strong female character in high heels all the time.
Well, the best characters have agency, and I think it's easy for us when we talk about bad characters. It's not going to be that hard.
It's true.
I could have made a massive list, but I pared it down to like 3.
All right, so we've talked about a lot of our favorites. What do you guys think your number one, like, worst, most embarrassing portrayal of woman or woman character in their culture is? Nancy, why don't you start us off?
There are so many things to choose from. It's really sad.
Like, what is the most really, like facepalm inducing like portrayal of women?
Anything that sets women back in terms of representation is my least favorite, because women are always getting fridged, or they're only developed to show 3 types: bitch, damsel, or man-like warrior, which is all garbage because a woman is honestly all of those things at once.
Or mother of children, where she's basically an incubator.
Bitch, that falls under bitch.
Really?
Yeah,
I see that's a completely different category.
Bitch is self-focused and strong, motherly, all that stuff. Damsel is weak, and man-like warrior is, oh, that's cute, she's trying to be a man. I guess I'm going to really, because it's so egregious. I don't even really watch this show. I just know about it from what I've seen and read. And I even watched a few episodes. Penny from Big Bang Theory is the worst. She's the worst. She's
why?
I don't understand.
I mean, I could probably think of 7 reasons off the top of my head, but go ahead.
Just everything about her. It's such a misstep, and I don't really understand. But that's a terrible show anyway, because it's not for nerds. It makes fun of them. So I guess that's what everyone who's not a nerd watches and thinks, oh, nerd stuff. I don't know. I don't really understand. I hate that show.
I haven't met like a true nerd that like enjoys that show.
Yeah,
oh man, that's totally me. It's like, no, you're deluded.
Without getting into like that whole, without roasting that particular chestnut. Yeah, no, Penny from Big Bang Theory, she just is insipid. She sets the entire, like I said, I don't like people who set back the representation, and she totally does. She's not, she from what I understand, and I have people who like this show.
Like I wonder when people tell me like that show reminds me of you. I don't know if I should be insulted or.
I'm always offended when people tell me that. I'm always offended. It's like, well, then you clearly don't know me. But I would say Big Bang Theory's Penny. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There are a lot of reasons, but her agency is weird and like sporadic, and is she involved with someone on the show? I feel like she was.
Well, yeah, the main character Leonard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that
they
guy.
They're like Rachel and Ross.
Oh,
From
God,
what I understand.
how awful! Even Rachel had more agency than fucking Penny. I hate her.
Well, then
This is funny. Right now, I'm searching worst female nerd characters, and
she's cheating apparently.
no,
Oh no! What comes up? Tell us.
Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory.
Well, you know what? I'm curious to see what else you guys brought up because
I have a thinking about this. I didn't spend too long about it. I have one immediate it's very recent, but Lance is gonna know what I'm gonna say. It's Barbara Gordon. Or Barbara Keene, I guess, right? Barbara Keene from Gotham. The worst, not just the worst female character, almost the worst character I've ever seen in anything of any show. Because
that is, oh my goodness,
her sole purpose is I don't know. Her purpose is the first few episodes. Okay, granted, I watched I guess 9 or 10 episodes of Gotham before it went on break. The first half of the first season, and for the first 3 or 4 episodes, she basically just laid around her apartment half dressed. And complained to Jim. Well, okay, I say half dressed. She basically be walking around in his dress shirt, which is a very sexy look. Well, she's a beautiful actress, but terrible character. Bad actress, I think too. I don't know if it's the actress or the character.
Barbara?
Barbara Gordon.
Yeah.
Not Batgirl. Her mom.
No. Her mom.
Her mom is named Barbara, which is weird, by the way. But so yeah, her objective is just to pester Jim Gordon and think he's lying, and they created
the bitch.
They created
there
you go.
Great.
They created this whole convoluted backstory where she had a lesbian past with Montoya,
who is an excellent character.
Yeah. So
they just ruined her
purely to add relationship drama to Jim Gordon's life. See, Jim Gordon's supposed to have a nice family life, and he fights Gotham to protect his nice family life, and that's his motivation. His family's. That's why the Dark Knight works so well, because Two-Face is threatening his family. But in this show, they're not married yet; they're engaged. And Barbara's from some rich family, so she's really well off. She has this great apartment. I'm not sure if it's her apartment or Jim's apartment or what, because she eventually ends up leaving Jim, but she breaks up with him at her apartment and then she leaves.
Yeah.
I don't understand. She's like, I need some time or whatever, and she goes and she hooks back up with Montoya, who has been trying to break up Barbara and Jim, because it's you took Batgirl's mom and you just made some crazy ass. And character about it, and all of her scenes are just so facepalm inducing,
I know, and then they ruin Renee Montoya in the process.
Yeah, and it's just completely whenever that show would build a little bit of momentum, those characters would come on, and it would just ruin everything. So that's my immediate knee jerk reaction to worst character. That's probably an exaggeration because it's brand new, and it's in the grand scheme of things, it's just a drop in the bucket, right, in nerd culture. But it just really annoyed me more than anything else about that show was what they did with Batgirl's mom, Jim Gordon's wife. The other main one I have to say is Lana Lang from Smallville. Terrible character. The first season, I was right on board. I was right there with Clark, man. I was in high school, I get it. There's a girl of your dreams or something, but you can't be with her, and that's fine. But it's the first season it worked because she had a boyfriend and that was cool, and then he went off to the army or whatever, and Clark was cool with that. Clark's like, okay, I'm moving on, I'm gonna get with Chloe, Lana's with Whitney, whatever. Then he goes, Lana's boyfriend goes off to the army, and then she starts wanting to get with Clark, and then it's awkward, and then for the next I'd say about halfway to season 2 was okay. And then it just she got completely whiny and bitchy about, you're telling me lies, you're telling me secrets, blah, 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 blah. And then she ends up getting together with Lex Luthor, which is ridiculous, and they make some kind of triangle there, and she got pregnant with Lex's baby, but she didn't because he faked the pregnancy to keep her in a relationship and did the reverse thing, right?
Like a soap opera.
And then he tried to clone her, and then she got superpowers.
Awful.
Okay, Lana's superpower, which she stole from Lex, was based off a organic procedure, which causes her to suck up all kryptonite that she comes in contact with, which also makes her emanate it. So Clark and her could not be together. Originally Lex had made it for himself, to defeat Superman, to defeat Clark. But she stole that technology and used it for herself to get superpowers. So what Lex did is he made this giant kryptonite bomb that was going to blow up and destroy Metropolis. But Lana had to suck it all up to save the city, but then Clark couldn't be together anymore. So,
oh my fucking god, this is all so horrible. This is awful.
That is
this
Lana
is
Lang, the sweet girl next door from Clark Kent's past from Smallville, Kansas.
No, this show is horrible. I don't care about Lana Lang. I cannot believe you watched that for 10 fucking seasons. It's awful.
Pretty bad, huh?
That was pretty bad.
What about you, Lance?
So it's kind of an ensemble, but because all the female characters on this show were bad, and it's a shame because the show was good for a season, and then I kept watching it, and I'm gonna say that the female characters on Heroes, in particular Claire Bennett, because I couldn't stand her. She was super annoying every season, every scenario she was in, she was annoying. She was always bitching about something. She was always mad at whoever that was in her life at that moment, whether it be her father or boyfriend, friend, anybody trying to do anything like around her, not even like in a good or bad way. She was just bitching all the time. And then also let's not forget about Nikki or whatever the fuck her name is, because they didn't know what to do with her.
Nikki,
and like
Jessica,
she had nothing to do.
Barbara,
like,
Sally Lauder,
and Simone,
Tracy,
nothing to do. And then
Simone was good, and they killed her off.
She was all right, but she didn't do anything. They didn't give her anything to do.
Because they killed her.
Speedster.
Oh god, I forgot about the Speedster.
Awful. Like the best female character they had on that show was the fucking like cello player who was deaf in the 4th season. That was the best one. Every other one, unfortunately, was awful. Especially Claire and Nikki. Like
Claire, yeah, Nikki, Jessica, Tracy. The Barbara, the third triplet that we never saw.
Yeah. Whatever.
Oh man, well, I hope she comes back for Heroes Reborn. We can see Barbara, see what her power is. That's good. That's a good call. Oh, you know what? I liked Bennett's wife, who got sick of his shit and divorced him. Good for you. You know,
right?
Talk about some agency right there.
No
joke. You know, she got a new boyfriend. Like, good for you, woman. You know, this guy's
joke.
Secrets and Lies. You know, working at Quick Copy or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, what about Maya? That's an awful one. You forgot her. Worst character ever.
Yeah,
I loved it so much when Sylar shot her and she died in the season 2. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then they bring her back, and what does she do? She hooks up with Mohinder. Why? Because he's there, and he's an alpha male, and she just follows. You just can't resist him or something.
That was
Turns
stupid.
Oh
like
my
I
God.
said, so many to choose from. Had to narrow
And they were all bad. They were all they were all bad.
Oh, what about Charlie? What about Charlie? She was nice, you know, and she, you know, and Hero saved her life, and then
They dragged that shit on too long.
Okay. Steve or Nancy, did you see season 4 of Heroes?
I watched all of Heroes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, anyway, so you know how Hero decides in season 4 he has a brain tumor, he's going to die. He's going to go back and save Charlie's life. So he gets Sylar in the past. Don't ask, but he gets Sylar in the past to fix her brain tumor because he can understand how things work. So he saves her life, but then like this other time traveler that's working for Samuel, who's in charge of the carnival of villains or whatever, takes her, time travels her somewhere where Hero can't find her. Turns out Hero meets up with her in the hospital. She's like 90 years old. She's kind of like a Peggy Carter situation. Yeah. But she lived her whole life in the 40s, you know, which ironically, she tells her this story like, oh, yeah, it was great. I made a life for myself. I worked at a bomb-making factory. I want to be like, oh, yeah? Well, I'm from Japan, bitch. I don't appreciate that. You know, like that was like the most unintentionally inappropriate thing to have her have done. You know, like, oh, yeah, we dropped a lot of bombs on you Japs back in the 40s. Like, that's, I mean, did they think that through? Anyway, whatever. Anyway, yeah, women in nerd culture, man, it's tough. I think.
Yeah, I haven't gone yet.
No shit.
You haven't gone yet? We've been bitching
Nope,
for
he
so
hasn't gone
We've
yet.
been
He's
bitching
last.
for so long. I'm sorry.
About Heroes.
I'm sorry.
I'll be quick. I think that I'm going to go with Padme Amidala.
Really?
Ooh,
Because-
I didn't even think about that.
Oh, yes,
Because-
exactly. Yes, go on.
Okay, they were trying to say, like, look, she's a strong... Say Leia, because Leia was a badass. She was, you know, obviously very pretty, but she also could shoot a fucking gun. I see what they were trying to do. They were trying to make, like, look, she comes by it naturally. Her mother was kind of a badass, but she was a diplomat. She was a senator. But no, she just came off, and it had a lot to do with the writing, because obviously the actress is awesome, but the writing was so horrible. She came off with this stupid little youngling who couldn't do anything, and she was like, "Oh no, you're breaking my heart." Oh, girl, it's like, shut up, God. But they could have done so much more. I think the first mistake they made was that she was this queen,
An elected queen.
and I think they were doing that because they wanted they had to make Leia a princess, but
Well, they didn't have to. Bail
She
Organa
didn't
could have been a
know-
prince, but whatever.
yeah, but see, that was stupid because she didn't know that her mom was a queen. She thought she was adopted, but whatever. Didn't make
She's
any
adopted.
sense. She adopted. They
That's a great call, Steve, because that stereotype I was talking about before, Nancy, with like the incubator, that's what Padme was in episode 3. What did she do? She sat around and gestated Luke and Leia, and then popped them out at the end, and that was her only purpose.
So annoying.
There were some deleted scenes where she kind of starts the rebellion, but George Lucas didn't think that was important, so deleted them. With Mon Mothma and Bail Organa,
Also, Gwyneth Paltrow sucks. Anyways, what's in the show?
Steve and his hate for glop or gloop.
Which is funny because I was going to say that in the comics only, I actually like Pepper Potts because
she's awesome.
She doesn't take any of his shit, and I love her as rescue.
I love Pepper Potts. I think
even more angry that we didn't see a film version of that. But
I love Pepper Potts in the movies. She's like my second or third favorite love interest in superhero movies. So.
I mean, I like her in the movie, whatever, but I really like her the best in the comics. But whatever. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed our conversation about Agent Carter and we kind of wandered there a little bit, but about our favorite and least favorite characters for International Women's Day. I'm Nancy.
I'm Zach.
I'm Lance.
And I'm Steven.
We don't break the news, but we do break it down. Well, here's the deal, guys. We tried to talk about Constantine. We teased it a few times. But, obviously, it had the same effect on us as it did with the viewers of America.
Lance, do you watch all the episodes?
I sure did.
Lance is the only one of the four of us to watch them all.
Kudos to you, Lance.
Hey, I watch a lot of shit.
I need a soundbite of that.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, put that on a T-shirt for
For nerds, Nerds Explain It All shirts.
Oh,
I watch a lot of shit.
And then like a couch,
that's on the back.
A couch in front of a TV. I just, it went on. Had it not gone on that hiatus, I would have finished it, right? Because I watched I think the first 7 or 8 episodes was it. They all came out in a row, and I watched them every week, and it was part of my routine. But then they went away. Like when you have a season that only lasts 13 episodes. And you take a break for like a month in the middle of it, kind of messes up the pattern, and then it comes back for like 4 or 5, and then it's over. I don't know. So we're not going to talk about it.
American Horror Story took a 4-week break, and it only has 13 episodes, and then it came back and had like 1 or 2 episodes, and that's awesome. So
that's ridiculous.
That's weird.
I agree.
So
but anyway,
we didn't watch it. So Lance, did you like Constantine?
I did, but I did not like it as much as Agent Carter.